All right, so I'm going to post this under week 8 as lecture part 3. This is going to be the review of an existing Access database. I downloaded a template that I want to share with you folks. So here you can see under week 8, the intro database. You can copy this and then paste it into your nested VM. And this is what we'll be working on. So the instructions I'll be following are posted here, Lab 2, reviewing the existing. And it's just this. It's 6 pages, but as you can see, it's a lot of screenshots. So that's what I'll be following over here on the other screen. All right, so I'm going to close this, and then I'll reopen it. Okay, just so you can see. Under lab files, I said this in the last video, these files 2 through 7 will make use of some, if not all of them, moving forward. But let's start with this one, right? So I can double click this to open it, or I could choose File here, and I could choose Open, and you'll have to browse if you do it this way. It remembers the fact that I had this one open about 15 minutes ago or so. So let's open it, and let's take a look. Now, I love using templates or databases created by other people, so I can see, okay, how do you create a database? How do you name your tables and things like that? Oftentimes, looking at someone else's design in conjunction with my own reading, my own testing, really can help to solidify the knowledge. Right, so you could see I did not get asked up here to enable content because I have listed this as a trusted database. If you open this and you get a yellow stripe across here that says, with a button that says to enable the content, you definitely want to click that button to enable the content. Now, there's a macro in here, which is the content. The macro itself, we're not going to touch on that. That's generally outside the scope of what we do and outside the scope of what this class calls for. But if I run it, okay, there's a series of commands in the background, Visual Basic VBS commands, if memory serves, VBA type language here that doesn't work in this specific example. This database was written for a much older version of Access and then upgraded so that it works with the newer version, but the macro itself doesn't work. But that's why we're getting that message to enable content. If you see this in the wild, right at your workplace, or you download a file from the internet, do be careful of things like that because macros can introduce viruses and whatnot into your system. All right, so we've got a couple of tables here. We've got a query. We've got some forms. Now, we'll look at the forms. We'll look at the reports. But generally speaking, right, if we're working in a SQL or Oracle environment, unless we are the application developer, these things are created and maintained by someone else. Now, we as the DBAs, we can write our own queries or use what we call stored procedures. So I could save this query and then just run it on demand. Excuse me, set it to run as a scheduled task, right? If this is the payroll database, maybe I want to run the payroll reconciliation process every Friday, right? So I can get that information over to the bank or whatever. So we can make use of stored procedures or triggers. Every Friday at 3 p.m., run this report, run this query, right, whatever. So we may get to triggers and stored procedures. I am not feeling warm and fuzzy about that. So, all right, so if I'm following the lab, I'm going to double-click Employees. Notice I've got internal, minimize, maximize, and close buttons. I can close the table without closing the database or without closing Access. Now watch where these buttons go if I maximize, right? They're going to pop up here to the top. And notice that the order changes, maximize here and then restore. Wait, this is, oh, that is minimize now. Okay. That's strange because normally the box is maximized. But anyway, maximize the employees, table. Let's open the locations table. Okay, the locations table, hey, wait, what? I want to be able to see both. Okay, so we can make use of the restore button here. And what it will do is, I don't recall closing. There we go. I must have mistakenly closed the employees table. By making use of the interior restore button, I can see both tables at the same time. And then I can left click and hold, and I can move. And wherever I let go of the mouse, right, that's where the table gets dropped. I can try to grab the borders to make them wider or more narrow. And so sometimes in this kind of view, what I want is this. I want to be able to see both. Okay, so there we go. Now I've got two windows open. I can open titles, and I can say, okay, right? So I can manually do things like this, right? So I have all three of the tables open, but if I click on this one gets kind of hidden. But if I shrink this down, right, I can't shrink this down without hiding. So you have to figure out what view is best for you. Okay, if you excuse me, if you need this space to look something like this. Now I can also, if I don't want to do this manually, I can come up here and I can manage my windows. Now manage your windows is you'll find that in one of these menu options, but I don't use access enough to have all the menu items memorized. Okay, I do remember enough to say, if I go to the help field here, the tell me what you want to do field, and I type the word manage, this will show up. And I can do things like tile vertically. I can tile horizontally, I can cascade. Okay. Again, you figure out what the best view for you is. All right, so let's close and close, and we'll close that as well. All right, so queries have been created. If you remember in the last video, I walked you through the creation of a query without setting up the relationship first, and when I tried to select fields from both tables, I got the error that the relationships weren't defined. Let's see what we have here, right? Under Database Tools, under Relationships. Now remember, I said this in the last video, one to many. This is the infinity symbol, right? It's the number 8 flipped sideways. You can see I've got 3 tables, locations and titles, 2 separate tables, both relate to the employees table. Location ID of the locations table, which is the primary key field, meaning it is unique in this table, relates to the location ID field in the employees table. Well, why isn't this the primary? Because more than one employee can work in the same location. And if you remember, a primary key value must have the uniqueness constraint within a table. Okay, so the location ID in the locations table is unique. The location ID in the employees table is not unique. Hence the many, right? Many employees can work in one location, right? That's how I'm reading this. Okay, I've also got job titles, title ID, related to title ID. Same premise here, right? Title ID in the titles table is unique. Hence, it is a good candidate key, which we turn into the primary key, right? A candidate key is which of these fields is unique throughout. The answer is any one of the fields that is unique throughout is a candidate key. We have to pick what we think is the best one and make that our primary key. Now, title could also be a candidate key, could also be the primary key. Okay, but the author decided, no, we're going to use title IDs here, and you'll see what that looks like in a minute. Unique here, not unique here. Because again, right, I work as a customer engineer, right? Microsoft calls us CEs. Okay. within the Microsoft hierarchy, there is one CE, one customer engineer job title. Many employees can share that same job title. Okay, so that's how I'm reading this. Many employees can have the same job title, can have the same one job title, right? I hope that makes sense without me beating a dead horse here, so to speak. So because the relationships are already defined, I can run this query by double-clicking it. Now I'll maximize this, and we'll take a look at the datasheet view. Now I've made modifications to my datasheet view, which I will show you in a minute. You can see I have listed myself as a manager. I make $1 less than $100K a year, but unlike these other schleps that I work with, my performance is excellent. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'll move to Miami because I do want to retire somewhere warm and near the beach. Okay, so if I take this and I go to design view, I showed you this in the last one, the last video. I have modified my layout. So if you're walking through this lab with me, right, I'm on page 2. Whoops. Okay, I'm on page 2, this step right here. Yours will look different than mine, right? Yours, the default is to sort in ascending order by last name. Well, later on in the lab, I ask you to change the sort order and then to add yourself or add a fake record, right, so to speak. So I'm changing the sort order from last name to salary. I'm changing the sort order from ascending, A to Z, to descending, Z to A. Now this applies to numbers as well. Highest number to lowest number in descending order, right? So again, if I rerun this, I could see that Billy Marlin makes the most money out of all of us, 125K. I can aspire to that. Okay. Meanwhile, Mark Brown, the trainee, whose job performance is poor, well, I don't know, is this, if you divide that number by 2,080, that's the average number of hours a full-time employee works. 52 weeks a year times 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours. What does this come out to, like $9 an hour or less? Poor Mark Brown, no wonder his performance is poor. We're not paying him. Okay, so let's see. If I change this, I'm going to go back to design view. Notice I've got tables and fields. Tables and fields. A different table. Okay, but if I change now to SQL view, and this is where, I said this in the last video, this is where you can kind of start to see, once your queries start to get longer and more complex, not having indentations, not having white space here, especially where you're selecting lots of things, makes it hard to read. Now, we haven't talked about a complex inner join yet here, but I want to join the job titles or titles table to the locations table, but I'm going to nest another inner join. Locations joined with employees, where the location ID field in the location table is equal to the location ID in the employees table. I'm sorry, did I misspeak? The location ID field in the locations table is equal to the location ID field in the employees table. I apologize if I stumbled over my words there. But this is nested, right, because of my parentheses. If you don't follow the logic here, that's okay, right? I didn't design this query. I would not have done this to you, not this early on, talking about joins. But if I just ignore the nested piece, the part inside parentheses for the moment, I'm joining the titles table to the employees table, where title ID in the titles table equals title ID in the employees field. And yours will be different here. I'm ordering by the salary field in the employees table, sorted in descending order. Okay, so again, my goal isn't to get you, by the time this class is over, writing this query. My goal is to get you to be able to read this query and make heads or tails of it. Okay. Now, something else that might be different for you. The default font size in SQL View is 8 point, and I can't read it. It's too small. Excuse me. So I'm going to make this change once. I only have to make it once. You don't have to do this if you don't like it. Okay, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Options. I'm going to look for the Object Designers area, and I'm going to either change the font face to something else. I'll change the size. I change the size from 8 to 12. Now, if I change it to something larger, just for the heck of it, I'll change it to 24, and I'll hit OK. Until I close this and reopen it, I won't see that change. Now, no chance I'm going to struggle to read that, right? I mean, even if I take my glasses off, that's almost readable, okay, at 24-point font. But change it to something that you like. If you plan on making any changes at all, that's up to you, okay? So, Calibri, whoops. Let's see if Calibri is an option. There it is. Calibri is a font I use in my Microsoft Word documents and things like that. So again, right, this doesn't change anything. Whoa, okay, now I don't recall selecting bold, but anyway, looks like it's boldface text. But all right, so that's the option. This is page 4. Okay. So the last few items I ask about are, okay, what's the sort order? Yours should be sorted alphabetically by last name, right? Because you haven't made any changes, unless you have made changes, right? What are the fields selected for this query? Well, remember, this is datasheet view. The fields I've selected aren't visible here. I have to change to either SQL view or design view. You use the view that's easier for you to read, right? What tables are used? Read this row. What fields are used? Read this row. Okay, look at the nested inner join. Well, I'm sorry, you have to change to SQL view to do that. The nested join is the part that's inside parens. Okay, so if I move on to page 5, if I change, I'm going to quit out of here, sorry. I'm going to reopen the employees table, and I'm going to switch to design view. If you remember the code that you copied and pasted in the last video, where you were creating a table with a name, you were creating fields, the data types, and the field lengths. Again, I'm going to ask you to choose the one that is easier for you. Just know that most enterprise level companies are not running Access, so you're not going to have access to this design view. I can type in a name here, a new field named delete me. I can choose what manner, right, what data type I want. So let's do currency, whatever. Notice how my field properties area changes. Decimal places, do I want? I can physically choose, or I can type auto, or I can type to. Is there an input mask, right? So do I want you to type it in like something like that with 2 decimal places? Okay. Caption will be, I don't know, let's see, currency, or you type whatever you want. This will be the field name. Okay. So I'm going to click off of here. Can I delete this new field? Sure. Just click here and hit the delete key. Okay. Now I'm going to type that back in there. Delete me. And we'll make it currency. What the heck? And let's view it. Sure. Let's save it. Now I have a field out here called delete me. And because it's currency, right? So I'm going to type in 9.99. Let's see what happens. Okay. What about 9.99? Oops. Oh, no. Whoops. Sorry. I thought I hit the down arrow, but I hit the enter key. 9.9. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And you can see, because it's currency and because I specified 2 decimal places, well, I think once I deleted it and re-added it, it defaulted back to auto. Okay, so if I go back to design view, I can verify that, yes, auto. Okay, now I've added some data into this field. Let's delete it. All the data in the field, are you sure? Why, yes, I am. Let's go back to datasheet view. Yep, I want to save it, and the delete me field is gone. Okay, so you can see, right, I've added Mike Kelly as an employee. I could have done that this way. Okay, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, user, delete me. Okay, and then I'm going to try L99. Ooh, let's see if that allows me to save. There might be some constraints on here. Job title T99. And my salary is going to be, I don't know, 40K. And I'm going to type the letter X here. Okay, so here's a constraint that stops me straight away. Must enter M or F. Okay, well, last time I looked, and my performance is bestest. Bestest. Okay, a constraint. A related record is required in the locations. Well, I don't have a location 99. How do I know? I've got 4. All right, so let's close that. Let's change my location back to location 4. Title 99. Aha. That didn't work either. Well, let's see. What do I have here for job titles? I've got 3 of them. Okay, so let's make the delete me user the highest paid trainee on staff. Now that I was able to up arrow off that record and the pencil icon disappeared, this user is now saved and is a permanent record in the employees table. Excuse me. Okay, delete me user. Now notice, right, the sort order in this datasheet view is employee ID, lowest to highest. Application developers can design forms, local forms or web forms. And I think this is where I'm leaving off in the, nope, sorry, this, and there's one other thing, and then we'll call it quits for this video. Here is a form created by the database administrator for specific use in this Access database. Now, I'm going to try 24680. I'm going to try user 2 and delete me, delete yourself. Location, Atlanta is fine, trainee is fine. Let's see, can I make the salary 195K? Is there a constraint on that? Gender is female, performance is excellent. Good. Okay, I'm typing the first letter. If I type a letter, like I'm looking for fair, if I type the letter F and fair is not a choice, nothing happens. Aha, okay. I'm going to try to add this record, but first things first, let's try this. Let's do X. Sorry, got to enter something, right? Delete yourself. Let's make delete yourself a female. Residing in Atlanta, right? Remember employee ID 24680, add. Now I've got 16 records. Close the form. Okay, 24680, here's delete yourself. Look at that salary. An average trainee now has the highest salary of anybody in the firm. Okay, I'll show you this, but we're not going to be doing any of this actual work. I can change the view of the form to layout, to datasheet, to design. Now, again, it's a little more complex than this, but I'm putting some captions here and then I'm putting fields that link to a specific table, in this case, the employees table, and the field names. So whatever I put in here gets put into the employee ID field in the employees table, if that makes sense. Okay, now I said I'm going to show it to you for a second, and we're going to get off that. Last thing, and this is the last step in that lab, reports can be generated from queries, right? If I bring up my employees, yay, okay, right, not very user-friendly-ish, right? Managers love reports, TPS reports, if you've ever seen Office Space. Let's look at the employee master list report, and let's zoom in. This report can be based off of a table or a query. So here I have all the names, the titles, the salary information, sorted apparently, right? If I first glance here, looks like it's sorted alphabetically by last name, and I think that's correct. And if I go to design view, okay, I'm pulling this information from these fields, okay, from the employee table. Now, again, we're not going to spend a lot of time doing this, but I can create a new report if I wanted to. Okay, I can create queries here. I can create forms here. I can create reports here, right? So if I choose report, right, see, employee master list, because that's the report I have open. I'm in design view. I can add fields. I can add page numbers. I can add my company logo at the top and bottom. Okay, but let's not spend a lot of time. I do not want to change the design. I don't think I made any changes, but just in case. Okay, and then this is based off the employee by location. Okay, so nice and simple reports that I could get from Access. They're a little more complex to get out of SQL or Oracle because you have to write queries that output to a report. Okay, again, I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy, but if we get there, we get there. I'll show you some basics on how to do this. But probably if we're going to do forms and reports, if we get there, it's going to be an Access only. Right? If you take a sophomore or junior level database class, you can talk about advanced query design and then outputting to reports. But that's pretty much it. That is lab number 2, which is to review an existing Access database. So I have to dig into those other 6 database templates that I downloaded and see if we can put together something like this to give you some more time doing some hands-on stuff. So right here, right now, these are just things for your review. I am not going to make this one or lab 1. Well, lab 1 was the review of the creation of the Access database. You already got a grade on that one. This one and the review in week 8, you are not, right? These are not going to be graded assignments. They're just kind of for your perusal. All right, and with that, I'm going to let you get back to it, and I will talk to you all in the next one.